Good evening, everyone. My name is Carter Metcalf, and I have the honor and privilege of being the county's Planning and Development Director. So tonight we'll be talking about the Orphan Road Loan Fund. So to start for this evening, we're gonna have our Assistant County Manager, Ms. Carrie Sanders, come up and talk about the purpose of this program, and then we'll jump in and talk more about tonight's program agenda and the different items we'll be covering.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I just want to take a moment to explain the reasons behind the Orphan Road Loan Fund. In North Carolina, counties are considered agents of the state, which mean that we only have the powers granted to us by the North Carolina General Assembly. Under North Carolina general statute, counties are not legally responsible for road maintenance. This falls under North Carolina Department of Transportation and private developers, such as subdivisions. What we know is poorly maintained roads cause serious issues for our residents, right? It impacts emergency response times, service access, and neighborhood safety. Roads in poor condition do not improve over time, they just worsen. So the biggest reason we are here this evening is because our county commissioners heard the concerns of our citizens. And in response, they directed our county staff to develop a program to assist neighborhoods that have orphan roads. The county commissioners have approved a $2 million loan fund assistance program or fund to assist residents in addressing our critical needs on our roads. Our goal overall with this program is to support safer, more accessible neighborhoods while empowering our citizens to improve their own communities. So with that, I will hand it back off to Mr. Metcalf. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sanders. So we'll start with covering an agenda of what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to start by setting some terms and making sure that we're all talking about the same things. Because this is already a complicated process with multiple moving parts. So we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page to start with. We'll then go through the different steps of this program, the timeline for it, and how everyone here tonight, if you are interested, what that practical next step is and how you can help your neighborhood improve their road. There will be a brief opportunity as well for questions at the end as well. So orphan roads, let's hear what we're to talk about tonight. An orphan road is a private road within a neighborhood or a subdivision that lacks a clear owner. So no one is responsible for its maintenance, and often this is because the developer that built and created the road failed in their process to get the road taken over by NCDOT. The road was dedicated and built to be a public road, but is not public at this time because the North Carolina Department of Transportation, or NCDOT, is not maintaining the road. So developers build roads and they designate them to be public, but during that petition process, it failed to meet NCDOT standards, or maybe they didn't petition at all. So when a developer ceases to exist and that road that was intended to be public is not an NCDOT system, it becomes an orphan road. Now, here we're talking about, again, a road that was designated as public. Roads are either designated as public or as private when they're created. So a road that is designated as public, it's labeled on the plan that created that road and created those homes and those lots. And roads, public roads that are taken over by NCDOT are logged in their system and have a state route number in addition to their name, how we often all refer to them as. Now some roads though, that when they're created, are created as private roads. When the subdivision plan is approved, it's dedicated as private. It's labeled as such on the plan that's recorded with the Register of Deeds. And the maintenance, repair, and liability fall on different ownership that is private in nature, such as an HOA, a homeowners association, maybe a property owners association or POA, or maybe a single entity like a developer or corporation. Now, at no time is a public entity such as the government or the Department of Transportation responsible for maintenance. The road began as a private road created by the developer, and then is to transition ownership to an HOA. As opposed to public roads, they begin their life as being private, owned by the developer, and they're to be transferred over for their end ownership and maintenance by the Department of Transportation. Now, in order to get taken over by the Department of Transportation, you have to meet many different standards. If we took all those standards and we brought them all together, they fall into three different categories. The first is that the road must be constructed to NCDOT standard. The asphalt has to be a certain size. The base under the road has to be constructed in a certain way. The road has to drain properly. There's a certain size and a certain width it has to be. So there's lots of standards under that construction umbrella. In order to become an NCDOT road, it has to meet a certain residency requirement. All NCDOT roads must be occupied by at least 2 residences for every 0.1 miles, or 4 homes if the segment is under 0.2 miles. So a certain number of homes have to live on that road. So even to petition the road to go into NCDOT system, folks have to live on it. Now, the last standard is that the road must be connected to a road that's already in their system. So if a road is separated by a road that's not an NCDOT system, it's not eligible to become it. In order for a road to be taken over, all 3 standards must be met. So in the petition process, often what we see, maybe a developer petitioned too early. There's not enough folks that lived on the road for it to count. Or maybe there was an issue with its construction that unfortunately may have gotten worse over time. So this program and this loan fund is about addressing all 3 of these requirements and getting the road into NCDOT's system. That is our goal. So in order for that to happen, we're going to talk through the several different steps that are going to be necessary for that to be accomplished. I'm going to introduce Mr. Joseph Bauer. He's our senior planner with our team, and he's going to be covering the different steps for this evening.
Thank you, Carter. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. And I definitely wanted to meet you. As Mr. Metcalf said, my name is Joseph Bauer. I'm the senior planner with the Planning and Development Department. And I am going to be your point of contact moving forward for all of the neighborhoods and subdivisions that opt into this program. So I will be, for all intents and purposes, your liaison and communication in between the county. So as Mr. Metcalf said, there are a lot of moving parts to this fund. And we've kind of condensed it down to really highlight the key components that are going to drive the success of this program. Now, the good news is the majority of a lot of the technical and heavy lifting to this program is going to be assumed by the county. And that's why I'm here this evening. So we are going to be taking the action item steps and communicating in between NCDOT and some other agencies on your behalf. Nevertheless, you all as the public and the communities play an extremely vital and important role. So there are key steps that the public will need to take. And that very first step is going to be identifying the roads throughout the county that have fallen into this orphan status, right? Simply put, we don't know what we don't know. Now, in the planning department, we certainly have an idea through communications already with citizens from the public. We already kind of have a working inventory of roads that we do know are in that orphan status. But simply put, just 2 days ago, I received a call from a citizen. We were talking on the phone. He provided his address, and I looked it up. And sure enough, in a subdivision I was unaware of, there is a small stretch of that road that is in an orphan status. So I'm continuing to learn more and more of more orphan roads throughout the county. So that very first step is going to be identifying, and that's where you play that important role. When you leave here this evening, there are sign-up sheets in the back. We want that process to begin starting this evening. If you know the subdivision name and the roads, please legibly put it on there, because what we're going to do is then create that inventory, and we can be able to assess all of these roads. And then the next action item is for myself to go through each one of these roads that have been listed and identified to me and verify their orphan status and that they meet the requirements that NCDOT puts forth for adoption into their state system. As Mr. Metcalf already mentioned, there are several requirements. You have that residency piece, right, where X amount of homes have to be served by that road, and that connectivity piece. So once I establish an inventory of these roads throughout the county, and verify that they are indeed designated, they were designated as public, and they have fallen into an orphaned status, I will then begin to verify that we can move forward with that road in this program. From there, once I have that verified list, I am then going to complete the NCDOT petition on behalf of that subdivision. Now, this is an application typically that is accomplished by the developer at the time of the creation of the subdivision. But for whatever reason, and a myriad of reasons, either they've done it and the roads were rejected at that time, or simply put, this process was never done. I will be submitting on behalf of that subdivision for NCDOT to adopt this road into its state maintenance system. Now, from there, NCDOT will go out and evaluate the road. Now, this is an important step. A lot of these roads have been neglected for some decades, and we know that through weather and travel, these roads fall into a status of neglect, and they need a lot of work. Now, NCDOT requires them to be brought up to their NCDOT minimum standards for subdivision roads. So what they will do is produce essentially NCDOT as well as others that will assist in creating a deficiency list for that particular road within that subdivision. They will identify what all improvements will be required to meet that standard in order to be entered into their maintenance system. Once we have that deficiency list, again, the county is going to take this upon themselves to help facilitate and push the ball forward and keep the momentum going. We reach out to our partners at the Jacksonville Urban Metropolitan Planning Organization and others that can assist in taking that deficiency list of all the improvements that will need to be done and developing cost estimates, right? The work takes money. Improvements are not going to be free, so it's going to take money. So we're going to generate cost estimates of what we project doing these improvements will cost. Once those cost estimates are established for that very specific subdivision, we then reach out to our friends over in the tax department. Now, again, $2 million has been set aside as the loan. So those cost estimates will then be utilized to develop essentially a payback plan of what it will look like in the form of a special tax to be paid annually by the property owners within that subdivision over the span of a 10-year time frame. Once we have that, we are then going to put those estimates and that payment into a petition. Now, this petition is going to be generated by myself and others that will assist me in doing it. But bottom line is the petition will be generated from Onslow County. And then it will be sent out to whatever point of contact kind of has established themselves as the point of contact for that subdivision. I will then send that petition out. And then it's back onto the property owners to then speak with your neighbors and to rally support, if you so choose, to enter into this program with that end goal of being taking that orphan road and getting it taken over into the state's maintenance system. So that petition is extremely important. And I wanted to kind of briefly touch upon what all of that will entail. This was not an arbitrary step that the county came up with. Rather, this is actually mandated by North Carolina General Statute, and that's on the screens in front of you. North Carolina General Statute has set out when a county does a program such as this, what the petition will require. And it states forth the following. Before a county may finance all or a portion of the cost of improvements to a residential street within a subdivision, it must receive a petition for the improvements signed by at least 75% of the owners of the property to be assessed. So that's extremely important. That threshold needs to be met. There are 75% of all the property owners being served by that street frontage of that road to be improved must sign that petition. And I can't emphasize that enough. So this is where the community needs to kind of come together and talk through whether this is a program that you want to participate in, because if that 75% threshold is not met, and simply put, the subdivision will not and cannot move any further within the loan fund program and hence continue going on as an orphan status. Can it? Okay. If you don't mind, and that's a great question, and if you would, there's going to be a time where we can address very specifics regarding this, but right now, for the good of the group and the flow, let's continue on, but that's a great question, and we are going to open this up for questions just like that towards the conclusion of today's presentation. So, having outlined the key components of the program, I now kind of want to just put before you the timeline that we're projecting so you guys know where we're kind of headed in the near future. The first key milestone we want to outline for you is that November 1st, 2025. Again, all of these components on the screen are also on a handout that's available for your pickup on your way out the door. But that November 1st date is the first key milestone after tonight's meeting. And that is where all of the street submissions will be due. So by close of business on November 1st, that will be the hard deadline where all of those streets that are believed to be orphan need to be submitted to me in writing via email. Again, my business card as well as my contact information is on that handout on the table out the door this evening. So all of those street submissions are due. Now, I do encourage you at the conclusion of tonight's meeting to go back, speak with your neighbors, speak with anyone that you know may live off one of these roads, because we do not have to wait till November 1st. There's going to be a lot of moving parts that need to happen directly after November 1st. If we can get a jump, that's ideal, because the next following date will be that January 31st, 2026 date. And that is the date that those signed petitions will be due back in person to the planning and development staff, myself. So in between November 1st and January 31st, as I already outlined on the previous screen, there's a lot of moving parts. There's the communications with NCDOT, there's generating cost estimates, and those cost estimates then have to be put into that petition and handed back to that subdivision for dissemination and signature. So January 31st is when those signed petitions that demonstrate that they've met that 75% threshold are due back. Because from there, the following month, we're going to take all of the qualifying petitions that have met that threshold, and we're going to sit down with our technical review committee to kind of go through the petitions that qualify. Now, our technical review committee is a committee that meets monthly, and it is comprised of multiple different agencies. Inside this committee, you have NCDOT as a participating member, the school system, EMS, United States Postal Service are all going to provide their input in going through and kind of, again, keep in mind, there's $2 million set aside. Depending on how many petitions meet that threshold and qualify, we are then going to begin to prioritize where that funding will best be allocated to be able to go the furthest and create the biggest amounts of benefit for the community as a whole. Now, the Technical Review Committee simply sets forth a prioritization list. We are not the deciding factor. This is a recommendation that then is generated to the following month be presented in front of the Board of Commissioners. And on March 2026 is where we are aiming to bring the recommendations for the subdivisions and where we recommend the allocations of that $2 million funding to be placed. The Board of Commissioners will then give their approval or their comments as to yes or no. Once approval is given as to where to proceed with the funding, the spring and summertime of 2026 is where the bidding then goes out. Again, this is done on the county level on behalf of the subdivisions. So bids will go out because those improvements have to occur. We have to bring these roads that have been neglected and bring them into that minimum standard that NCDOT has set forth. So spring and summertime is where we are shooting to begin those improvements. Now, once those improvements are completed, of course, the end goal of this entire program is to bring those roads up to standards and then repetition NCDOT to evaluate the roadway. And if acceptable, Onslow County submits for their street acceptance, and then that orphan road can be adopted into the state's maintenance system as it was intended to originally be. Now, with all of that being said, there are key steps that we want to make you aware of and, of course, open up for questions. And to provide those key steps, I'm going to invite Mr. Metcalf to come back up and kind of highlight what's next.
So as Mr. Bauer said, this process begins tonight. So on your way out the door, we're going to have some sign-in sheets. If you are interested in submitting the name of your street or your subdivision, you're welcome to sign in the sign-up sheet. Now, please be advised that if you're going to put your name down and your contact information, you need to be ready to be your neighborhood champion, advocate, and coordinator to helping us get all of these signatures. Our team that is on the county side facilitating this is limited, and you know your neighborhood better than we do. You know your neighbors better than we do, and so we need your help if you're going to participate in this program. So if you're interested and you know that tonight, you can sign in on the sign-in sheet. If you need some time to think about it, we totally understand. And if you want to grab one of Mr. Bauer's cards on your way out, and you can follow up with an email to him submitting your street name or your neighborhood. If you want to talk to your neighbors and see maybe who's the best person to participate in the program. As I said, if you're going to put your name down, we just ask that you be ready to respond. That petition that we're going to submit on your behalf requires one person from that neighborhood to sign on it and put their information there. You're not, filling the whole thing out. We're going to take care of all of the technical side, but we're required by the Department of Transportation to have one person in that neighborhood agree. The last thing is we would encourage you to talk with your neighborhood. Talk with your neighbors. All signed petitions are due to our department by January 31st so that we have enough time to work with other agencies to help prioritize them, put that before the county commissioners, and so we can get these improvements scheduled and moving forward. As well as tonight, we're only able to do what the state allows us to do. The county cannot own roads, and this is the method that the state has allowed for us to facilitate a loan fund to make these improvements. But we will now transition to a time of questions that are good for everybody here. If you have some that are, very nuanced and maybe very, very neighborhood specific, our county staff will be remaining here. But the one question we had was around renters versus owners. And if a neighborhood is mostly renters, who do you have to get to sign the petition? So North Carolina state law requires the owners sign. A renter cannot sign on behalf of an owner. One thing I would like to mention is you're going through the signature process and you get to a point maybe where there's one street that's interested in it, maybe not the rest, and you could get 75% of that street and it meets the qualifications to be eligible for the program. We can work with that. If you're countering those situations, I would ask that you reach out to Mr. Joseph Bauer so we can help you navigate those situations. Again, we're here to help you through the process, but we do have to check all the boxes because, again, our goal is your goal. It's to get to the end of this where DOT is going to take this road and maintain it for the rest of time. Now, we have one more question. Yes, sir.
My name is Kevin Hackler. Here representing my son, Grayson, and Stonewall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you talk about minimum standards, okay, there's a certain minimum standard. Once that's met, my question is, I do construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when minimum standards are met, that's not what the road needs. So we're talking putting it at the minimum right now, just so it can go to DOT. Then my question is, when's DOT gonna come back and actually fix it, the way it actually should be fixed, so that when
Absolutely, and a part of the deficiency process, so when the question that was asked was, there's a minimum standard and then there's what the road actually may need, right? Sometimes those are different. So here we'll be talking about the minimum standard. So part of this process is an engineer from DOT is gonna go out and look at the road and determine the deficiency and what the road needs. Some roads may need simple patchwork. Some roads may need the entire asphalt ripped out and the base redone and the drainage reworked. That's gonna be a part of the deficiency. So whatever the state is telling us that needs to be done, that's what's gonna be done. And after that, once it's DOT's road, they are responsible for the maintenance and care of that road. And they're gonna do what needs to be done through their annual prioritization system. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Mark Kemp, again, Greystone Housing as well, which I think about 95% of the folks in the room are. I want to thank you guys for the hard work. I came in here a little discouraged just because we've lived this in 2018. We've met all that, we've petitioned, we turned it all in, and unfortunately there was nothing there funding-wise. So now that we've got the funding, we know how to do this. It's a little disheartening we have to start all over, but that's okay. But you said something that's very key to us. Greystone Housing is a one-way in, one-way out. So Greystone itself has to be a state-maintained road before any other connecting roads can become state-maintained. The way we tried to address the issue is a load share. Everyone in Greystone would accept a cost sharing, not by linear foot, by just dollar amount divided by the number of homeowners. And we did that out of just because it is a common entry and a common exit. So I know that's unique to us, but if we get only 75% on Greystone to say yes, and we don't want to expect them to shoulder because that's the worst road in subdivision. It's the largest road and it's the worst road. So can we work with you to, I guess, determine our fate in regards to going after the whole thing, but knowing that you can't fund it with $2 million? You can't. So we're gonna have to live through fiscal year and have to live through this over and over and over again if money's available. Is that reasonable?
So it depends on the actual cost of Greystone, right? It was evaluated back in 2018. So we're gonna look at it again and see what it would take to improve it. And that's a part of our prioritization process, right? Is looking at that $2 million and how can we do the most good with our limited funding. Certainly on the table is maybe phasing certain subdivisions over time, just depending on if the county commissioners want to continue to allocate funding towards this, and how many petitions we get. You know, that's a part of the conversation, right? If we get many different petitions from across the county, that's why we have our prioritization process. But if we get one petition, we get one petition. So in terms of cost sharing across the neighborhood, that's something I'd have to defer to our friends in the tax department in terms of our ability to do that. Our role in planning here is to help facilitate the construction and moving forward with getting it taken over. But we are certainly, though, to some degree bound by general statute and what we're allowed to do. Kevin, would you like to answer that question?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Turner. I'm the tax administrator. And to answer your question, yes, it would be more like a cost-sharing program. The total cost of the project would be divided evenly among the parcels in the subdivision, and it would be more or less as a supplemental tax that would go out on the tax bill and billed annually. So there would be two lines on your property tax bill. Your typical property taxes that you see every year. Underneath that would be a special assessment for the road maintenance and the road repairs. It would be payable over 10 years. And we do understand that that could be a lot of money to come up with at one time, in addition to property taxes. So you could make prepayments throughout the year if you wanted to yourself, divide that number by 12 months, make 12 monthly payments and just keep doing that repeatedly until your portion is paid for. Yes.
So in the previous agreement that was put out, there was potential for an interest being charged. Has that been determined? If there be interest?
Yeah, the interest, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, as far as I know, this would be an interest-free loan. However, if the payment becomes delinquent, there would be interest attached to that portion of it as a delinquent tax. But as far as the loan itself, as far as I know now, it would be interest-free. Yeah. Yes.
Will the loan be transferable upon sale?
Yeah, the loan is tied to the property, not the person. So if the property sells, the new homeowner would inherit that. Yes.
I've lived in Greystone for 38 years now. My concern is, we're talking $2 million. But how many orphan roads do we have in the whole county? That's $2 million, gotta cover all of the orphan roads.
Right.
So when it comes to Greystone, we've been told at one time it would take $1.5 million to repair all of those roads, to completely tear up all the asphalt, put the drainage in, which doesn't exist. Our concern is, in 1998, when that subdivision was 13 years old, those roads were still in very good shape. When the developer got out of there, he submitted a letter to all of us that were there at that time, which I have a certified copy of it here, where he was turning the roads over to the state. It never happened. The question that I have is, it's not against the county, but how can a developer come in and build a subdivision, have all the roads beautiful like they were when I moved in? How can the county let that developer get out of there without turning those roads over to the state?
Yeah, I'll defer to Mr. Metcalf to answer that question for you.
Yes, all right. So understand there's a lot of frustration certainly with the developers that built some of these neighborhoods. Absolutely. At the same time, some of those developers no longer exist. Some of them have gone bankrupt, right? Some of them are gone and there's no way that we know how to contact them for them to come back and fix it. What I can tell you is that the county has found that we need to put $2 million here for this program so we can start fixing the problem. Now, certainly is the planning department having conversation with county legal on the developers? Yes. But for tonight's focus, we're focused on how can we actually make these roads a better place right now. That's what our focus is. And in terms of any sort of legal repercussions, that will have to come at a later date. And again, we have to work with the county attorney what the means are available. And that's very much a neighborhood by neighborhood situation. Yes, so we had that question. Any other questions?
I might add one thing.
Yes, sir.
Moco's Investments, they were the third developer that came into the Greystone subdivision. Bailey had it first, he developed a few homes and he left. Then Bill Prescovis came in and they developed most of the homes in section 1, which was on Greystone Road. Okay, all the Seaside down. When Gold Coast Investment came in, they developed section 2, section 3, and section 4. Okay? Now, Mr. Bunce died. He was the general contractor. His wife was the one that took over. She became the president of the Onslow County Homeowners Association. She's still here. She's an alderman in Richlands right now still. But we can't make any contact with her because she will not return calls. Now, I know this is a legal issue, but I'm just bringing it up. They can be contacted, but we can't do it.
Oh, absolutely. And so the question was talking about what if there was certainly somebody who came in and built homes and they're still around, right? And so that's one nuance I want to make sure that there's a difference between who built the home and who put the road in, right? So it's whoever put the road in and signed on the plat that's recorded with the Register of Deeds that says, I hereby dedicate this road for public use and I'm going to maintain it until it becomes that. It's that individual who's the developer who had that liability. The builder who built the home is sometimes confused as the same person, but sometimes they're different. It's a very much a lot by lot subdivision question, right? And so that's something we'll have to look into. And again, it's a neighborhood by neighborhood thing. There's lots of neighborhoods. Another thing I want to say is as well, there could be opportunities. We're talking about Greystone specifically about phasing that neighborhood over time. So that way the whole neighborhood can be done with our limited funding. I think we had two other questions also here in the room. And we got some more. All right. Yes, ma'am, I've seen your hand up.
I understand the process, but I know in speaking to neighbors, they're concerned about the cost, obviously, and a lot are limited income, retirees and whatnot. When we go to petition, will we know how much the tax will be? Because that's going to be an issue for people signing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we give the petition, it's neighborhood specific. It'll have your neighborhood name. We're gonna list the streets that are attached to that petition, and it's gonna say what that yearly cost per individual signing is gonna be. So it's very much specific, so you will know what that cost will be. And again, it's gonna be at that set rate for 10 years. All right, let's go. I've seen your hand up for a little while. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, $2 million, when that runs out, say in Greystone, the rest of us, we just what? How often can we get $2 million again to do some more? Because the budget matters.
So the question is, there's $2 million, and there's one neighborhood in Greystone, and there's a bunch of others as well that are interested in the funding. So when we receive all of the petitions that have made that 75% threshold, that's what we're gonna be doing in February with our technical review committee and ranking basically all of our different petitions that we have and how's the best way we can spend that $2 million. So it depends on how many petitions that we get for this first year. I cannot promise any future funding, but we're gonna see how this first year goes. And we'll, again, continue to talk with the county commissioners on future need. But again, we have $2 million right now, and we want to see how that goes. Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Metcalf. My name is Anthony Mazamudo. I'm a resident of Greystone, as we've heard a couple times already. My wife and I, we've been living in the community just for about 3 years now, and we've experienced how bad the roads have gotten. My buddy, the first night that we actually moved into the neighborhood, the U-Haul truck was in my driveway. My buddy and I had to push out 5 cars that had died in the middle of the entrance of our neighborhood because of how bad we pushed them out. So, Mr. Bauer, you mentioned that the county has communicated with our communities prior about these issues. And I would like to hear from your perspective, or Mr. Bauer's perspective, what communication have you received, and how does the county actually feel about it, and what's the stance?
So the question is, what communication have we received from these different neighborhoods and what our perspective is? So a lot of our communication that we have had is situations just as you said, sir, which is, hey, there's problems getting down some of these roads. They're either hurting pedestrian vehicles. We have heard certainly from the limited ability of different services that are offered around the county to get down certain roadways, right? So we have our technical review committee. We've heard from the Postal Service about issues. We've heard from the school system about issues. And so what the county did said, we clearly see a problem and we're able to put $2 million towards that problem this year. And so our stance is we want these orphan roads to be able to be maintained by NCDOT so these roads are safer. They're actually being maintained by somebody and not gonna fall into future neglect. We want these roads to be safe and in good condition and be fixed the right way. All right. Go to the back and we'll start working our way to the front.
Lived in the neighborhood since 2019, and since then my property tax has been raised at least 3 times. So is there going to be any safeguards against the general property tax while we're also paying the extra tax to pay off this loan?
So the property taxes, we do a reassessment every 4 years. And the property taxes at that time is based on market conditions at that time. For Greystone, we look at property sales in Greystone. So if property sale values or sale prices are affected by the road conditions, that's captured in those sales prices. So we're using those to establish the assessed values. As far as values changing over time, we will not change the assessment based on a road improvement. We are doing a reassessment that is going to take effect January 1st, 2026, and it's going to be based on market conditions right now. After that, there will be another reassessment in 2030. It'll be based on market conditions at that time, but it will not be based specifically on those road improvements or road conditions.
Maybe another question over here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So there's 46 lots on Walnut Drive Extension, and 16 of them are vacant. They have sewer laterals, but they're vacant. So is that going to be part of the 75% that we're going to have to get the owners of those vacant lots to sign a petition? I mean, how do we find them?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Unless you find it for us.
yes. So I will.
Taxes, so
Yeah, we are definitely here to help in terms of identifying ownership. I want to be very clear in that, right? If a neighborhood wants help in terms of finding who is the legal owner of that property, based off where we're sending our tax bill, we can provide that list to any neighborhood that is interested in that information.
We'll be able to generate an ownership list, and it'll have their mailing address of where they actually live if they're not local. All right, who's next? Yes, sir. Right.
75% of registration required. If we live there and we do approve this and it does go forward, is everybody that lives in Greystone obligated to pay part of that tax, either if it comes or goes?
It'll be the property owner's responsibility to pay the tax, all of them, not the tenant, not the renter. Yeah, yeah, it'll be the owners, yeah. Yes.
Would that apply to, Kenwood too, like Walnut Extension? Everybody in there to help pay for Walnut?
Yeah, we would have to look at that, and those will be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
So, and again, so would it apply to everyone in a neighborhood? Here, again, it's the people who live off of that street that is improved. So that's part of where if there's a unique cost-sharing agreement that's desired, or you're not able to get an entire neighborhood and it's going street by street, we encourage you to talk directly with our team so we can talk through those different options for those neighborhoods. Yes, sir. We'll come across.
I live off Walnut Extension. I think we boast the largest single pothole in the county. I do think, I know it's a ball of yarn. I mean, we all know it is, and yet you guys have created, a lot of this is, at least I can say for my area, is produced from the 2008 housing boom, then collapse, right? But, I would ask this, I don't expect you to answer this right now either, but I hope there's some safeguards built in for newer subdivisions so communities don't find themselves in the same situation.
Oh, absolutely. So the question is, are there safeguards in terms of newer subdivisions not falling into this? Absolutely. That is a part of our modern process that we have now. Developers are required to petition. It's something we're actively monitoring with them, right? So that's a lot of these subdivisions that have orphan roads are older. And so that is something that we do make sure that there are not just regulatory, but also our staff are engaging in that process as well, because we don't want to see any more orphan roads created into this system. All right, so yes, sir.
Rick Ruber, Greystone. Two questions. One is, if I am a developer and I do a community, is there a deadline for me to put this thing into DOT, to have it turned over? Is there a deadline right now of this date? Or was there one back in the past?
So it depends on when, so the question is there a deadline for the developer? Depends on when that subdivision was created, so we'd have to look at that. But today, it is the expectation that within 1 year of creation, they are petitioning DOT. Now, there is this aspect called the Articles of Agreement, where that is a part of the subdivision process. So a different time may have been specified in those Articles of Agreement, but that's a conversation with the developer when that subdivision is being created.
Okay, my second question is, if you've done your homework around the county, how many orphan roads are out there right now? Neighborhoods or roads or?
Yes, so absolutely. As Mr. Bauer said, as we've kind of gone and began doing the public relations for this project, because the question is, how many orphan roads are there out there? We don't know. We're constantly learning of more, because there's lots of roads in the county that are labeled as public but are not in NCDOT system. So we know through conversations with folks, there is a number of subdivisions, not just roads, but subdivisions that are orphaned, that have engaged our office, or a partner of ours has seen some sort of effect to their service. We don't know the exact specific number to answer your question directly, but we want to know. We want to hear from folks if they're in this situation and if they're especially interested in this program for them to help take advantage of it. All right, I think we got 2 more questions. Yes, ma'am, sorry. So the question was, did she already has a petition in with NCDOT? Can that just be sent to our office? Send that over to our office and let us take a look at it. In order for it to be in the loan fund program, we have to check additional boxes outside of what DOT may have already had. So we just need to evaluate what you have done to make sure it fits. But likely you're gonna have to still do our 75% petition again because it's gonna formalize our specific cost related to the county improving that road. But absolutely send over what you have so far so we can at least take a look at it. And it sounds like you have a great starting off point for this process. All right, so I think we've got 2 more questions over here. Yes, sir.
Bill Vogel from, I live in Greystone subdivision. I live on Stonewall Avenue. Everyone comes through Greystone Avenue. Is that correct? $1.5 million probably to fix just up to Greystone and Stonewall?
No.
Was that the entire road?
Well, that was,
Okay, okay, so my question is, are they just gonna fix Greystone? Or are they gonna fix all the roads in addition that connect? Because 45 Road is what Greystone connects to.
Yes,
That's the only state road.
absolutely. So the question was in Greystone.
With the petitions, who would need to get petitions? Everybody in the subdivision?
Absolutely. All right, so we got several different questions in there. All right, so the first question, Greystone has 1 entrance road. Would we just be improving Greystone's entrance road, Greystone Avenue, or the other roads like Stonewall? Depends what petition you submit. If the petition is for the entire neighborhood, then we'll evaluate the entire neighborhood. But yes, we have to get Greystone first because it connects to Pony Farm. We can't just improve Stonewall or anywhere of the other roads without doing the main entrance road. That is something that's a part of when we're talking about the 3 standards, that first being connectivity. As folks are asking us for their road to be in this program, we're gonna be asking that question internally to make sure that if you submit it and we go through this process, it can happen. I think I answered all of those questions in there. One more, yes, sir.
yeah, I've got the paperwork here, and it says, I got many questions, but,
Okay.
this is meant to apply to streets that were platted as part of the subdivision after September 3, 1975. Okay, but require improvements. And it also says roads that were platted before 1975, they may qualify as old rural roads. And I've been asking this question for many years of our county commissioners and state people, because many years ago, I petitioned for Lake Street to be taken into the system, and that fell under what they call the grandfather clause at that time, and we got it in the system. So one of the few people, there's probably some others in here that actually got one in the state system. Okay, when I petitioned for Littleton to be put into it, because they had to hook into the state system, the rules changed. And no one at the local or state level, I've asked, who changed it, when it changed, and can we change it back? So I don't even know if my road would even fall into this category.
Yeah, so thank you, sir, for your question. So he's talking about there's this specific road in Bella Woods, I believe, and it's Littleton Street. And that road was constructed before 1975, if I'm understanding correctly. And NCDOT has different standards for a road that was created before 1975 and one that was after. And so if you're interested in Littleton being a part of the program, you'd submit that name to us. And when we provide it to NCDOT for them to review with their deficiency list, that's one of the first things as they're looking at our petition, they're gonna ask, is it pre or post 1975? Because the rules are different. I do not know all the rules, sir, I'll be honest with you, but we have sat down and talked with NCDOT on several occasions, And we've talked about that point with them, about what they're gonna require for a pre versus a post road, because the rules are different.
I hope our elected officials who represent us would answer that question, which they haven't done for year after year after year after year. It's like it never existed. Lake Street wouldn't have been in the system if it didn't exist.
Yes, sir. I understand certainly the frustration with that, but I can't provide an answer to who changed the rules. But what I can tell you is I'm going to help you try and get through the rules that we got, and we're going to help navigate it that way. That's the best I can offer for you, is that we are here to help. So if anyone else has any other questions, you are welcome to stay after, but we appreciate everyone's time tonight. Our team will be around to answer any other neighborhood-specific questions. On your way out the door, we do have the table. Please make sure that you grab this handout we have. It is 2 pages. It provides a timeline, next steps, and everything. We have Mr. Bauer's card if you're interested to take that for following up via email. As well, if you want to sign up tonight to submit your street, we have sign-up sheets there on the table. So thank you so much, everybody attending, and we appreciate you helping make Onslow County a better place.